I was a well-known actress, quite successful in the entertainment industry. On my daughter Chloe's 7th birthday, my husband Mark used an incredibly expensive time machine he had somehow acquired. He told me he regretted something from his past. He wanted to travel back 8 years to the time of a major flood to save his first love, Isabelle, from drowning. He regretted saving me instead, his wife at the time, pregnant with our child. So, on that awful day, I could only watch as my daughter, the little girl I had cherished for 7 years, simply vanished. He went back and changed the past. Afterward, he celebrated Isabel's survival by setting off fireworks all over the city. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself back 8 years in the past, right before that flood was about to happen. This time felt different. In a moment of pure, raw instinct from remembering what he did, I imagined pushing Mark into the floodwaters right alongside Isabel. I pictured them struggling together in the rising water. Ava! I snapped awake, feeling like I'd surfaced from a nightmare, sitting bolt upright. My hands instinctively went to my stomach, trembling slightly. The room, the tent I was in, it was all eerily familiar. I realized with a shock that ran cold through me that I had somehow returned to the night before the flood struck 8 years ago. My mind reeled, replaying the events of Chloe's 7th birthday. Mark taking her away with that machine. His cold words echoed in my memory. Ava, I'd do anything for a time machine. If I could go back, I'd save Isabel, the woman I truly loved. And just like that, Chloe was gone. I searched everywhere, frantically, but it was like she'd never existed. No one else remembered her. All people knew was that the wealthy CEO Mark was deeply in love with the popular actress Isabelle, lighting up the sky with fireworks just for her smile. 7 nights of fireworks while I grieved, unable to find my daughter or get any kind of justice. The grief and helplessness consumed me, and I felt like I wasted away under those same celebratory lights. Now I was back before it all went wrong. My assistant's voice cut through my thoughts, complaining, Ava, you fainted earlier because of the pregnancy, and Mark still won't leave Isabel's tent to even check on you. I shook my head, tears starting to fall without my permission. A mix of relief and remembered pain washing over me. It's okay, I managed to say, though my voice was thick with emotion. Chloe, I thought fiercely, this time, Mommy will protect you. Rain was pouring heavily outside, drumming against the canvas. I grabbed my assistant's hand, my voice urgent. Listen carefully. Go tell all the villagers nearby to get to higher ground immediately. There's going to be a huge flood starting very soon. This whole area will be underwater by morning. 8 years ago, that flood had claimed so many lives. Now that I was back, I knew I had to try and save as many people as possible. As my assistant turned to leave, I stopped her. Wait, I added quickly. Don't disturb Mark or Isabel. Just focus on getting everyone else onto the boat first. Mark. In the life I remembered, he regretted saving me, his pregnant wife. He spent a fortune to undo that choice, erasing our daughter without a second thought. He chose Isabel over us, over Chloe. This time, I thought grimly, let's see how he manages to survive on his own. This was during my first year married to Mark and also a peak time in my career. I was filming on location in this remote area. Mark had shown up saying he was visiting me on set, but it was obvious he was really here to spend time with Isabelle, who was a lesser-known actress in the same production. While making sure people were evacuating, I walked past Isabelle's tent. I heard Mark's low laughter coming from inside, a sound I rarely heard directed at me. He was always so reserved, almost cold with me. I remembered how Chloe used to try so hard to make him happy, only to be met with his impatience. She was such a sweet, sensitive child, always blaming herself, saying, "It's Chloe's fault Daddy's upset." And yet, Mark had allowed her existence to be wiped clean because he regretted not saving Isabelle. The thought filled me with a cold, hard knot of hatred. How could I not despise him? Even the film's director seemed uncomfortable with the situation. He approached me hesitantly, his expression sympathetic. Ava, he started, Mark is being quite inconsiderate. I forced a smile, pushing down the bitterness. Oh, you know how young people are, always having fun. It's fine, I said, trying to sound casual. I have more important things to handle right now. Inside, I thought, soon enough, Mark won't find anything to laugh about. I lowered my voice slightly, looking the director in the eye. If you trust my judgment, please get everyone onto the main boat as quickly and quietly as possible. I had a good working relationship with him, and thankfully, he took me seriously. He started organizing the evacuation without drawing attention. The rain was a constant roar now, hammering the tents. Mark and Isabelle were apparently watching the movie Titanic inside her tent, oblivious to the rising waters and the quiet evacuation happening outside. This time, I wouldn't make the mistake of giving up my career for a man like him. My focus was clear: protect Chloe and secure my own future. Through the night, we worked steadily, moving most of the crew and nearby villagers onto the large boat we had on set. It was originally a prop, but luckily the director had insisted on renting a real functional vessel, otherwise everyone would have been trapped. As dawn approached, the evacuation was nearly complete. I took one last look towards Isabelle's tent. They hadn't emerged all night. I couldn't help but anticipate their reaction when they finally stepped out into devastation and rising floodwaters. As I headed for the boat myself, I casually lifted a corner flap of their tent, just enough for the water to start seeping in, enough to destabilize it when the real surge came. Mark, Isabelle, I thought darkly, consider this a chance to face a real disaster together. My assistant called out gently as I reached the boat. Ava, Mark is still in Isabelle's tent. Shouldn't we call them? The water was already swirling around our waists, and the force of the flood felt imminent. You go on ahead, I told her calmly. I'll go get them. She knew the situation was critical and didn't argue, climbing aboard. Of course, I didn't go back for them. When I climbed onto the crowded boat, someone shouted, Ava, hurry! This is the last spot. Yes, the last spot. In my previous life, this spot should have been mine, but I had waited for Mark, leading to him saving me, the act he came to regret so deeply. Just as I settled in, I saw them. Mark and Isabelle finally emerging from their collapsing tent, stumbling and splashing frantically towards the boat through the churning water. In a life-or-death situation like this, there was simply no room for them here. The storm was raging. Rain lashed down and the wind howled. The floodwater, thick with mud and debris, surged violently through the area. Mark held Isabelle close as they struggled to stay afloat. Ava, pull us up! Mark yelled, his usually composed face now desperate and pleading as he looked up at me. He, who was always so cool and superior, looked quite pathetic now. Pitiful, maybe, but he didn't deserve any sympathy from me. My hand instinctively went to my belly again. I forced myself to remain calm, keeping the anger locked inside. There's no space, Mark, I called back evenly. How can I possibly save you? Isabelle, looking frail and frightened, clung to him. Mark, I'm so cold, she whimpered. Don't worry, Isabelle, Mark reassured her, his eyes fixed on me. Ava will definitely save us. She wouldn't leave us here. Everyone on the boat was watching us, tense and anxious. Then someone discovered one last life ring. Ava, look, a life ring. We can use it to pull Mark up. Ah, yes, the life ring. The very thing that had forced Mark into a choice he supposedly regretted for years. Now history was repeating, but the circumstances were different. I still had to make him choose. I took the life ring and tossed it down towards them in the water. Then, forcing a regretful tone, I said, It's too bad. It can only save one of you. People on the boat started shouting, Mark, grab the life ring, hurry! But that wasn't dramatic enough. Thinking ahead, I subtly signaled my assistant. She quickly took out her phone and started a live stream, titling it Real Life Titanic Rescue, and using some funds to boost its visibility immediately. Within moments, it was gaining viewers rapidly. At that moment, Isabelle's eyes filled with tears. Mark, she choked out, looking up at him dramatically. I love you. I would give my life for you, but lately I've been feeling sick quite often. I think I might be pregnant. From about 2 months ago. Her words visibly shook Mark. His expression shifted. And crucially, he had no idea this whole scene was being broadcast live online. Just as I expected, he began to hesitate. Perfect. My assistant, playing her part, called down, Mark, everyone online knows Isabelle is your first love from college. Can you really stand by and let her drown? She looks so fragile, totally dependent on you. The whole internet is watching you make this choice, Mark. Think carefully. Don't do something you'll regret forever. The water level was rising ominously, the roar of the flood growing louder. All right, Mark, I thought, you love forcing choices and playing the victim. Now it's just you, Isabelle, and one life ring. Let's see what you decide. The number of viewers on the live stream climbed rapidly. People across the country were watching Mark, the wealthy CEO, and Isabelle, the actress, struggling for survival. Mark's face darkened with fury, his eyes blazing. "Who told you to record this?" He snarled, looking up at the boat, his voice rough. "Do you want to lose your job?" Since the camera was focused on him, he likely assumed it was just being recorded, not streamed live to potentially millions. Oh, this was getting good. This time, Mark wouldn't just struggle in the water. His true nature would be exposed for everyone to see. The icy water was clearly taking its toll on Isabelle. She was pale and shivering uncontrollably. "Mark," she pleaded, her voice thin. "Can you give me the life ring? Please, I don't want to die." She clung to him weakly, barely staying afloat. I watched, a small, almost imperceptible smile touching my lips. "Go on, Mark, it's your turn to be the one chosen, or not chosen." As I anticipated, he didn't make a quick decision. He looked torn. Just then, his voice cut through the storm, cold and calculating, loud enough for everyone on the boat to hear. "If someone jumps down and gives up their spot, I'll pay them $1 million. Mark, ever the businessman, even facing death, he thought he could buy his way out. $1 million. A tempting amount for many people on the boat, enough to make some eyes light up. My own expression hardened. He actually planned to buy someone else's life. His arrogant gaze swept over the people huddled on the deck. Even soaked and desperate, he carried that air of superiority he'd always had. "1 million," he repeated, almost sneering. "Enough for you to live comfortably for the rest of your lives. Your life is worth that much, isn't it?" Some people stirred, visibly tempted, but the live stream comments exploded with outrage at his callousness. "Damn capitalist. He thinks money can buy anything. I hate bosses like that." Most of the villagers hesitated. A few of the stronger swimmers actually started to consider it, looking ready to jump. I quickly caught my assistant's eye. She immediately shouted down, "Wait, are you crazy? What good is the money if you drown trying to get it? Besides, he hasn't paid you anything. How can you trust his word right now? You jump, you die, and there's no proof he ever promised you anything." A sudden flash of lightning illuminated the scene, followed by a deafening clap of thunder. Everyone went quiet. Mark's confident expression faltered. In a rush of panic, he upped the offer. "5 million! 5 million for 2 spots. Just jump, the money is yours." Now he looked truly desperate, his usual calm facade cracking. Still, he kept one arm tightly around Isabelle's waist, maintaining the image of devotion. But no one was buying it now. 1 million might have tempted some of the more naive villagers, but 5 million sounded too unbelievable, too desperate. The promise felt hollow, and the crew members who knew Mark personally certainly wouldn't trust him in a situation like this. Who would risk their life on the word of a man like him right now? So people just shook their heads, mumbled, and settled back down. "Save your breath, Mark," someone called out. "Money isn't worth dying for." Another added, "Yeah, look at those waves. No one's jumping into that." Mark's face grew paler, his expression turning grim. But just then, in a swift movement, Isabelle snatched the life ring from his grasp. Ignoring his stunned expression, she quickly pulled it over herself. "Isabelle, you—" Mark's eyes widened in disbelief, a flicker of shock, quickly followed by a wave of visible pain. "Isabelle," he choked out, "why would you do that?" "To save my life, obviously," Isabelle cried back, though she quickly tried to soften it. I had to suppress a smile. "Ah, Mark, being betrayed by your precious first love doesn't feel very good, does it?" "Mark, I'm sorry," Isabelle sobbed, her shoulders shaking. "I'm doing this for our child. I want to live." Someone once told me, "I'm destined to only have sons, not daughters." If I wasn't carrying our son, I would gladly die and give you the ring. But I'm pregnant, Mark. There are two lives here. This is our son. Hearing this, Mark seemed completely thrown. Of course, he didn't want to die either, and he came from a family that highly valued male heirs. In the past life I remembered, he'd often expressed disappointment that Chloe was a girl. He probably believed Isabel's claim instantly. He desperately tried again to appeal to the crew, using his status as the film's investor, but it was pointless. People value their own lives above all else. Driven into a corner, Mark turned his intense, desperate gaze back to me. "Ava," he said, his voice strained. "You don't want to just watch me die, do you? You'll save me, won't you?" I just shrugged, putting on a look of regret. "But Mark, I can't save you." He struggled to control his shivering, his eyes locking onto mine with a disturbing certainty. "No, you have a way. I know you do." His conviction sent a chill down my spine. My heart felt heavy as I stared back at him coldly. Then he said it, his tone implying it was the most reasonable thing in the world. "You come down here, let me have your spot." The sheer audacity made me feel numb. Did he honestly believe I loved him so much I would die for him? After everything? I hadn't even begun to settle the score for what he did to Chloe. "Mark," I asked, my voice dangerously quiet, "do I owe you something? What gives you the right to even suggest I'd give up my life for you?" His face changed abruptly. He looked genuinely shocked. "If it weren't for you," he sputtered, "I wouldn't even be out here on this location shoot. I wouldn't be caught in this flood. This is all because of you. If something happens to me, you'll be responsible." I used to see Mark through such idealized eyes. My husband, my childhood friend, my family, my love. But without those filters, he was just Mark, selfish and cruel. "Oh, really?" I retorted, my voice dripping with sarcasm. "Did I make you spend all night in Isabelle's tent? Everyone here knows you practically live there, chatting away with her. The person you should blame is yourself, Mark. I gave you the life ring. It's not my fault you couldn't hold on to it or that she took it. What more do you expect? Your devotion. Save it for whoever you meet in the afterlife." The comments on the live stream were flying. Watching them scroll by gave me a grim sense of satisfaction. Having failed to manipulate me, Mark turned his attention back to Isabelle, still clinging to the life ring. The floodwaters were still raging furiously. No one on the boat was moving, and there was only that one life ring between the two of them. Mark's eyes, now filled with a turbulent mix of emotions, fixed on Isabelle. He clenched his fists, clearly unwilling to accept his fate. Tears streamed down Isabelle's face. "Mark!" she cried frantically. I feel like our child is fading. We might lose him." "Mark, don't you want our son to live?" Children. That was always Mark's weakness, his one vulnerable point. He didn't know, of course, that I was also carrying his child right now. But in this life, my daughter belonged only to me. She would have nothing to do with him. As for whether the son Isabelle kept mentioning was actually Mark's, well, that was highly doubtful. My assistant leaned close and whispered, "Ava, that Isabelle is something else. Mark doesn't stand a chance against her." I smiled faintly. "Of course, I know." It was common gossip in our circles. Isabelle was known for juggling multiple men-rich ones, handsome ones, athletic ones. Mark was just one pawn in her game. The child was simply her ticket to survival right now. But Mark, blinded by his first love narrative, probably believed every word. And so, decisively, Mark turned and started swimming away on his own, trying to fight the current towards distant, uncertain safety. Watching his retreating figure struggle against the flood, I narrowed my eyes. "Mark, you'd better survive this. You need to be around to find out whose child your precious Isabelle is really carrying." In the end, thanks to the early warning, most people caught in the immediate area survived the flood. Once the waters receded, search parties went out looking for Mark. After a full day, they found him, barely alive. Since he was a decent swimmer, he had managed to cling to debris and avoid drowning. He was rushed to the hospital and spent 3 days in intensive care. I didn't visit him once. I threw myself back into filming, focusing on my work and my own well-being. I only paid attention again when I heard he was finally out of immediate danger. That's when I remembered. I needed to finalize our divorce as soon as possible. Standing outside his hospital room, I overheard Isabel's tearful voice. Mark, you're finally awake. Oh, you don't know how worried I've been. These past few days have been terrifying. I didn't mean to take the life ring, truly. I only did it for our son. Mark, you forgive me, don't you? I peered in and saw Mark, looking pale and weak, but his expression towards Isabel was full of affection. He held her hands gently. Isabel, he murmured, I never blamed you. You're a mother. I understand wanting to protect our son. Then Isabel added, her voice laced with venom. Mark, you have no idea how awful Ava was. She actually started a live stream of the whole thing. Both of us were insulted and mocked by thousands of people online. Mark, looking ghastly pale, suddenly tried to sit up, shocked. What? He rasped, rubbing his forehead, his eyes wide with disbelief. Ava dared to live stream? Is she insane? Doesn't she realize how badly that could affect the company? I almost laughed out loud. Did he really not know that his company's stock had already tanked because of the incident? I pushed the door open and walked in, fixing my gaze on the sickly man in the bed. No, Mark, I'm not crazy, I said coolly. But your company's public relations team might be going crazy right about now. Your personal image is ruined, after all. The story of him trying to buy his way off the boat had been trending online for days. His eyes turned cold, flashing with anger. Ava, what do you gain from this? Did you plan all along to just let us float there in the flood for your entertainment? Just then, Mark's mother burst into the room. Mark, how can you speak to Ava like that? She scolded him immediately. Don't you understand this whole mess is your fault? Mark, you need to cut ties with Isabelle right now and apologize properly to Ava. She shot him a warning look, clearly signaling him to smooth things over with me, likely for business reasons. I recognized the tactic. They had used this kind of good cop, bad cop routine on me before, but Mark ignored her, holding Isabel's hand even tighter. Mom, he said firmly, his voice steady despite his weakness. Isabelle is pregnant with my child. She's carrying your first grandchild. I need to give her a proper home. Those words hit me, not with anger this time, but with a deep sadness for the daughter he had discarded. Chloe. In our past life, Chloe had tried so hard to win the approval of Mark's family, but they never truly valued her because she was a girl. And Mark had never cared enough to provide her with a stable, loving family or be a decent father. I pulled the divorce agreement out of my bag and placed it firmly on the bedside table. Fine, I said calmly. Let's get divorced then. Mark's mother looked horrified, her voice trembling. Mark! Are you out of your mind? Did the flood wash away your brain? You want to give her a home? What about Ava? She turned to me pleadingly. Ava, please don't worry. I won't blame you for not managing to save them this time. But divorce? That's not necessary. Mark stared at the divorce papers for a moment, then looked up, his expression unreadable. All right, he said quietly. I agree to the divorce. Mark, his mother shrieked, finally losing her composure. Mark and I had entered into a marriage of convenience, primarily for business reasons, less than a year ago. My father, seeing how much I seemed to care for Mark back then, had agreed to invest heavily and help Mark's family business recover from near bankruptcy. If we divorced, my family would undoubtedly pull all their funding and support. Mark's company would likely collapse. Despite his mother's frantic protests and insults, Mark signed the papers without any outward sign of emotion. As I turned to leave, I heard him say resolutely, What does it matter if the company loses Ava? My child can't lose his father. Isabelle is the woman I truly want to marry, and I'll give up everything for her and our child. With the divorce settled smoothly, I poured all my energy back into filming. The movie I was working on was nearing completion. Daniel, a famous award-winning actor, joined the set for a brief cameo role. During his time there, he frequently flirted openly with Isabelle. It was obvious to the entire crew that they had some kind of relationship. Several people had even seen them being physically affectionate when they thought no one was looking. I pretended not to notice. It wasn't my business anymore. The only person completely oblivious seemed to be Mark. In my past life, I hadn't learned that Isabelle was Mark's college sweetheart until long after we were married. It made me wonder why, if he was so smitten with her back then, he hadn't told me and had instead rushed into marrying me right after graduation. My hand subconsciously drifted to my stomach again. In this life, my Chloe was safe, growing inside me. When she was born, I had no intention of ever telling Mark. He didn't deserve to be her father, in name or in reality. One day, while I was resting between takes, Mark's car pulled up. He got out and walked towards me, looking surprisingly cheerful, almost buoyant. Today's the wrap day for the movie, I thought. What's he doing here? He came straight over to me. I'm going to propose to Isabelle tonight, he announced, a slight smile on his face. She's carrying my son, due in a few months. I need to give her a proper status. I can't let my son be born illegitimate. I couldn't help but let out a small, dry chuckle. The entire crew was milling around nearby. Well, good luck with your proposal then, I said neutrally. Isabelle, so pure and innocent, gentle and kind. She's a good girl. His stern face softened immediately at the mention of her name. The tenderness was unmistakable. Then he looked back at me and his expression hardened again. Ava, you really need to work on your temper. If you don't change, no man will ever want you. My polite smile froze. I stared at him, keeping my face blank. Why should I need a man, Mark? Isn't it their privilege if I even let them get close? I raised an eyebrow slightly. And are you absolutely certain that child Isabelle is carrying is actually yours? Mark's face instantly changed, his demeanor turning icy. Ava, watch what you say. Of course she's carrying my child. Since he was so sure, I mentally prepared myself to sit back and enjoy the show later. Mark stormed off, clearly annoyed. He deliberately kept Isabelle hidden away in her trailer after arriving, avoiding the main set. Later, my assistant came to me, holding her phone, looking like she'd discovered buried treasure. Ava, she whispered conspiratorially, leaning close. I accidentally found something interesting. I just raised my eyebrows and gave her a knowing smile. The final scenes wrapped up late that evening. To celebrate, the director had arranged for a large fireworks display. Underneath the exploding colors in the night sky, Mark walked purposefully towards Isabelle. Each step seemed steady, determined. He knelt down on one knee right there, under the dazzling lights, and pulled out an expensive-looking ring. Isabelle, he began, his voice carrying over the murmuring crowd. I didn't know how to treat you properly before. I often upset you, but now I've learned how to love. I want to give you and our child a home. Everyone watching was stunned into silence. They all knew about Isabelle's very public flirtation with Daniel. This proposal felt incredibly awkward, part of some messy love triangle. Isabelle herself looked flustered, unsure how to react, while Daniel stood nearby, looking like a casual observer. Isabelle, Mark repeated, his voice full of emotion, will you marry me? Isabelle didn't answer immediately. Her eyes kept flicking nervously towards Daniel. The silence stretched, becoming uncomfortable. Mark started to look visibly anxious. Suddenly, amidst the tense quiet, the large screen set up behind Mark for the wrap party flared to life, blindingly bright. A video started playing and Isabelle's voice filled the air. Daniel, the voice on the video said clearly, I'm pregnant with your child. You'll love me, won't you? A collective gasp went through the crowd. Mark's hopeful expression instantly turned to stone. He whipped around, his face draining of color as he saw the image on the screen. Isabelle nestled intimately in Daniel's arms. He looked utterly shattered, unable to comprehend what he was seeing. In the video, Isabelle looked completely dependent on Daniel, their affectionate posture a stark contrast to the scene playing out in reality. It felt like a huge slap in the face to Mark, but it got worse. Whose baby is it really? Daniel's voice sneered from the recording. Of course it's yours, Isabelle's voice replied quickly. It's been 3 months. Who else could it be? Don't pay attention to those videos online from the flood. I had to lie back then, say the baby was that idiot Mark's. Otherwise, why would he have tried so hard to save me? I almost laughed out loud. Poor Mark. His world seemed to be imploding right in front of everyone. Mark's eyes turned red, a deep anguish settling into his features. Isabelle, he choked out, his voice hoarse. So you've been lying to me? All this time? This child? It isn't mine? Tears sprang to Isabel's eyes as she tried desperately to look pitiful. Mark, I truly love you. I was just playing around with those others. But her words rang hollow. She scrambled to appease Mark while Daniel, the known player, looked completely unbothered by the whole situation. News of Mark's disastrously public failed proposal and the revelation of Isabel's betrayal spread like wildfire. He had cheated during his marriage, gone through a difficult divorce, only to be publicly humiliated by the woman he chose. The internet had a field day discussing his misfortune. His personal scandal dragged his company's reputation further down. The online backlash was massive. How can such a blind CEO run a company? People asked. He ignored a star like Ava for a manipulator like Isabelle. Old complaints about their product quality resurfaced. The situation quickly spiraled out of control. Within a month, Mark's company was facing an unprecedented crisis, teetering on the brink of collapse. About a month later, after finishing a photo shoot, I found Mark waiting for me outside my apartment building. He looked terrible, exhausted, and much thinner. Ava, he said, his voice trembling slightly. Can you help me now? I looked at him coldly. Help you with what, Mark? The company's stock is still falling. If this continues, it's going to get much worse. Ava, you're the only one who can possibly help me now. I allowed a small, mocking smile. Mark, why don't you ask Isabelle? I'm sure she'd be happy to help. My voice was flat. Funny how you only think of me when you're desperate. When you thought you had everything, you wanted to give your entire world to her. Mentioning Isabelle made his expression tighten instantly. He visibly fought back his impatience. Ava, he said, trying to keep his voice calm. You know Isabelle can't help me. Only your family's business connections and resources can save my company now. Even merging our companies. I'd agree to anything, if you're willing. It sounded like his company was truly finished. The proud Mark I knew would never have begged like this otherwise. But I had absolutely no desire to take over his failing, tainted enterprise. No, I said simply. I find it dirty. His eyes narrowed, anger flashing across his tired face. What do you mean by that? Exactly what I said, I replied coolly. It's not the company itself that's dirty, Mark. It's you. Helping him would mean being tied to him indefinitely. I preferred building my own success. Why would I saddle my thriving ventures with his disaster? After that day, I didn't see Mark again for quite some time. My own career continued to flourish, and Chloe, growing inside me, was healthy and strong. My pregnancy was becoming noticeable. Although I tried to maintain my privacy, paparazzi inevitably caught photos of me out and about. Soon, news of my pregnancy was everywhere, trending online. Speculation immediately started. Would Ava get back together with Mark for the sake of the baby? Predictably, this news reached Mark. I ran into him unexpectedly at an industry event. He looked frantic, rushing around trying to connect with former business partners, desperately seeking investment funds. He had clearly swallowed his pride, enduring rejections without reacting, a shadow of the powerful man he once was. Our eyes met across the crowded room. I turned to leave, but he hurried over, blocking my path. Ava, he called out, stopping me. Ava, are you pregnant? It's my child, isn't it? I narrowed my eyes, looking at the flicker of hope in his desperate expression. In the life I remembered, he had shown zero interest or anticipation for Chloe's birth. When I had a difficult delivery, barely making it through, he was busy in meetings, completely absent as a husband and father. Now, seeing this sudden concern felt utterly hypocritical. Ava, he pleaded, I know it's my baby. For the baby's sake, can you forgive me this once? A cold laugh escaped me before I could stop it. The fury I'd kept bottled up for so long surged. Without thinking, I slapped him hard across the face. The sound echoed sharply in the suddenly quiet space around us, drawing stares. Mark turned his head slowly, his icy gaze fixing on me, raw anger simmering beneath the surface. Ava, he ground out in a low voice. Was I wrong? The baby is mine, isn't it? Why can't you just tolerate me for the child's sake? I promise I'll treat you well from now on. Why should I tolerate you, Mark? I shot back, crossing my arms, a faint, humorless smile on my lips. Tell me, why? I have money. I have a successful career. When this baby is born, I can give her the best life imaginable. She'll be treated like a princess, cherished every single day. Why should I settle for anything less with you? You think far too highly of yourself. Once this baby is born, she will have absolutely nothing to do with you. I will be her mother and her father. Without you, Mark, this child will be happier than you could ever imagine. He was so stunned, so utterly humiliated, that he couldn't speak for a long moment. He just stood there, clenching and unclenching his fists, visibly holding back a torrent of emotions. As I walked past him, I leaned in slightly and whispered, "Oh, and I forgot to tell you. She's taking my last name." When Chloe was born in my previous life, she had carried his surname. Now she would be my precious Chloe, linked only to me. Saying those words, seeing the look of utter devastation on his face, worse than the slap, gave me a dark satisfaction. I wanted him to feel pathetic. He deserved it. My latest movie became a massive success, both critically and commercially. The public praised my performance and positive reviews poured in. Ava looks incredible. She's talented and beautiful. Leaving that man was the best thing she ever did. But inevitably, some comments still wondered. Ava used to seem so devoted to Mark. Will she remarry him now that she has his child? The rumors about a possible reconciliation kept circulating online. At a promotional event for the movie, a reporter directly asked me, "Ava, will you remarry Mark?" Facing the cameras, I answered calmly and clearly. I have never considered remarrying. The child is one aspect of my life and I am another. I want to say this to all my female fans. Even if you are pregnant, even if you have children, never lose sight of yourself and your own worth. I was also speaking to myself, remembering the career I had foolishly given up for him in that other lifetime. A few months later, I heard the news I had been expecting. Mark was officially bankrupt. Without my family's continued financial backing, his family business simply couldn't survive. Cutting their losses and declaring bankruptcy was probably the smartest move left for them, though I was surprised he'd managed to hold on for as long as he did. He became entangled in numerous economic lawsuits. Buried under mountains of debt he couldn't possibly repay, he was taken to court, and his company's main headquarters building was put up for auction. To avoid stress during the final stages of my pregnancy, I had stopped all work activities and was focused on resting and waiting for Chloe's arrival. However, I had my assistant keep track of the auction. In the end, I successfully bid on and bought his company's former headquarters building. When I went to finalize the purchase and see the property, I saw Mark being escorted out of the building by police officers. "Ava!" he called out, his eyes lighting up with mistaken hope when he saw me. "You're here! You came to save me, right?" I slowly took off my sunglasses, looking at him as he stood there, about to be put into a police car. Just then, someone from my team approached respectfully. "Miss Ava, this way, please." I glanced back at Mark one last time, a small smirk playing on my lips. "I'm the owner of this company now, Mark," I said coolly. "From today onwards, this place will no longer bear your name." His expression crumbled, his eyes filling with a complex mixture of bitterness, regret, and shock. "You have the money," he whispered, his voice hoarse. "But you won't save me." "Ava, do you really hate me that much?" "Of course I hate you," I replied flatly, my voice devoid of emotion. "Letting you rot in jail for financial crimes feels too lenient. I wish you worse. If it weren't for the law—" I trailed off, letting the implication hang in the air. With Mark imprisoned due to his financial dealings, I officially founded my own production company. Not only that, but my performance in the recent film earned me a nomination for Best Actress at the upcoming awards ceremony. On the night of the awards, I sat with the cast and crew of my film. Coincidentally, Isabelle was seated nearby. When my name was announced as the winner of the Best Actress award, I saw a distinct flash of jealousy in Isabel's eyes, though she quickly masked it with a polite smile. "Ava, congratulations," she said as I passed her on my way to the stage. "You have your career back and a baby on the way. You have it all." I smiled back sweetly and replied quietly, "Thank you, Isabelle. But what about your baby?" I knew she'd had an abortion because Daniel refused to take responsibility, and her management agency wouldn't support her keeping the child. Her forced smile vanished instantly. Walking onto the stage, I accepted the heavy golden statue. This award, this moment, had been a dream of mine, a painful regret in my past life, and now it was real. I felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude just to be alive, to be here, experiencing this. It felt like proof that Chloe was truly back with me, that she would always be a part of my life. The day Chloe was born, I was filled with a nervous excitement unlike anything I'd ever felt. This time, I avoided the dangerous complications I'd suffered in the previous timeline and delivered her safely. She was just as sweet, just as perfect and lovely as I remembered her. Chloe grew into an incredibly bright and happy child. She started talking early before she even turned 1. The first time she looked at me and clearly said, "Mommy," my heart felt like it would burst with joy. Tears streamed down my face. Tears of pure happiness and relief. Having lost her once and gotten her back felt like a miracle I couldn't quite comprehend. She quickly became the sunshine of my life, the most important person in my world. While my life flourished, Isabel's career took a sharp downturn. Apparently, she offended someone powerful in the industry. Her acting talent had always been limited, and a misstep at a major event led to serious repercussions. She was effectively blacklisted, fading from public view. Time passed quickly, seasons changed, and suddenly it was Chloe's 7th birthday. I threw her a wonderful party at the most luxurious hotel in the city. Standing by her beautiful cake, she closed her eyes tightly, made a wish, and blew out the 7 candles, her small face glowing with pure happiness in the warm light. During the party, she grabbed the microphone and announced proudly, "My mommy isn't just my mom, she's my dad too. She's the person Chloe loves most in the whole world." Chloe never once asked about a father. She never seemed to feel the lack of one. The love I showered her with was enough. Her world revolved around me and mine around her. The candlelight flickered across her adorable features. "I want to be with Mommy forever and ever," she added, her eyes suddenly welling up with emotion. Overwhelmed, I hugged her tightly. "Sophia," I whispered, my own voice thick, "does Chloe want to hear Mommy sing a song?" She kissed my cheek enthusiastically and nodded, her smile wide. Taking the microphone, I stood on the small stage and sang 7 of her favorite children's songs, one for each year of her life. As the simple melodies filled the room, each note felt like a blessing, carrying all my hopes for her future. Silently, in the deepest part of my heart, I made my own wish. For my precious Chloe to live a life filled with safety, joy, and absolute freedom from worry.